What's up, guys? I'm doing another video. Today we're doing our first customer car project on the channel. This is a 95 Buick LeSabre that I don't know anything about. In fact, I had to check to see that it was Buick LeSabre. So what this car is doing is had a lot of things wrong with it, but I fixed all of those things. The only thing that is currently a problem is the AC does not work. So hopefully we can remedy that today. So I've already taken a look at the car, and I've already done a lot of work to it, and I've confirmed that in fact the AC has no pressure in it. So we're going to take my gauge set, hook it up to the car, and we're going to start pulling a vacuum on it. Alrighty, so number one rule with any AC system is if you are doing an evac and a recharge and you don't have an actual AC machine and the system has pressure, make sure you drain it out correctly. Don't just vent it to the atmosphere. It's a gigantic environmental crime. It's also an environmental disaster. And we like sea turtles and all that, so make sure you do it correctly. As you can see, this system has, well, I haven't opened it up yet, but as you can see, once I open this up, this system has zero pressure. So it is completely drained of any Freon. So what we're going to do is see if this has any leaks, which it presumably does, but it's a matter of how large of a leak it has. So we have this hooked up to our vacuum pump. We're going to flip this on. And you can see that those gauges are starting to get pulled down below zero. So you can see that would be negative 30. What you want to do is pull that down as far as you possibly can and hold it there for a little while. And the way you check for leaks, which is not a 100% definitive check, but a beginning leak, at least it'll help you find a very large one, is you pull a vacuum on it for about 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes, close these valves, and then see if it holds pressure. So now that Buick is on a vacuum pump for a little bit, we're going to move on to my next project, which is this 2002 Nissan Frontier. I'm not sure what year it is, honestly. I'd have to look. But customer's complaint is that it has a parasitic draw. So far, I have not duplicated that concern, but he says after a few days the battery does go completely dead. Truck's been sitting for a couple days, so let's see what the battery voltage is. I'm going to check the voltage before I've even tried anything. We've got 12.3 volts, so there's absolutely no reason this truck shouldn't start in my mind, unless the cold cranking amps are absolutely abysmal. So let's see if the truck starts. So the truck starts no problem, clearly. So what we will do to do a parasitic draw test, so you have to take the negative terminal off the battery. We've got about 0.9 milliamps right now, which everything's still awake because I just started the truck. So after a few minutes, all the computers should shut off, and this should theoretically go down to below 0.5. Now, by checking for leaks and walking away for 15 minutes, that also means could be an hour. So that's how long I've walked away from this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to actually close these valves. You can see we got down to about maybe 20, 15, 20. Meanwhile, we will meander our way on over to the Frontier and see if this has a voltage drop. So it does have a little bit of a draw. Definitely does. I'd like to see that to be about 0.5. So I have deemed this to be abnormal. So we're going to have to try and figure out what is pulling on the circuit here. So we'll have to pull this into the driveway in a little bit and start pulling fuses and see. Alright, so some time has passed. We're going to be good. We're just going to start airing this thing up here. I'm just going to pull a little bit of a vacuum on it real quick, and then we'll exchange over to our cans of Freon. So it's just occurred to me as I was about to shut that off and start getting ready to put Freon in it, gotta have, you know, something to actually put the Freon in. So now I get to go drive to AutoZone and get a tap for this can of refrigerant so that we can actually add Freon to the system. Yay! Sometime soon you guys will get a proper introduction back to this car, but this is in fact, as much as it doesn't look like it, the same Camry that we bought in 2018. So that'll be a fun little video to show you what all's happened and what resulted in everything. Well, that was a giant waste of time, but we got what we needed, so let's head home. Yes, this is exactly the same Camry, and if you might remember, we bought this with 78,000 miles, and now it has 233,000 has turned over today, so it's been a great car. Needs a couple things, but there will be a video on it shortly. Alright, so I got my tap on here. We're finally ready to start charging this thing up. I need to close the valves, get that turned off, and put this on the machine. Alrighty, so now you can see that we have this set up on here. I'm going to tighten this down to open the valve. So now we'll go in here and start it, if I can find the key. Got to turn that to cold all the way. I think that's right. Temp down. Sure. There's no actual dedicated AC button for some reason. And we're going to slowly open these up. So, sitting here doing this, first off, this knob breaks off this pretty garbage set of gauges. Then this hose comes off completely and dumps all the Freon out of the entire system. So we'll have to get a new one tomorrow, and I guess I get to pull a vacuum on and start all over. That's great. Alrighty, so we're back, day 2. As you can see, car's running. There are no gauges on it because I've already done it. It was the same thing as it was yesterday. We just pulled the vacuum on the system, charged it up with our 4 cans of R134, and obviously you're just gonna have to take my word for it, but that is cold. I mean, it is nice and cool in here. So, all right, for anyone who feels like they might have missed out on the AC charge in the Buick, don't worry, because we're gonna be doing it all over again in the Sienna. Customer's complaint is that the AC does not work. You charge it up, it works, and then it leaks out after a couple days. As you can see, that big dark surround on this condenser is where it is punctured right there, and all of the oil and Freon has leaked out. So we're going to be putting a new condenser in it today. And for this vehicle particularly, we have this brand new Denso AC condenser. So first we're going to get this grill removed and get the hood latch removed, this upper core support, because it unbolts right here. See what axis we're working with, and maybe even have to remove the front bumper. Alrighty, so as you can see, we've got all of the 10mm bolts out for that upper core support. There it is on the ground. We disconnected the horns, and we've pulled this upper cross member off by a bolt, or this lower cross member off by unbolting it from the lower core support, pulling it up. So the next step is just taking out the Phillips head screws at each corner of the radiator that hold in the condenser. Alrighty, and just like that, we've got the condenser out. So here it is over here. You can see the very obvious leak. There's where it's been smashed in the bottom, smashed again, and then the actual physical puncture is right there. So you can see where it's concave right there. So let's compare our new condenser to our old one. And it would appear that they are exactly the same. Alrighty, so as you can see, we've got the brand new condenser in. We did put new O-rings on the lines. So next we're going to pull a vacuum on this for about 10 minutes, hold it, and see if it keeps that vacuum. Alrighty, so now that we verified that there's no leak, I'm going to run the vacuum for about 30 minutes or so while I put the rest of the core support back together. So we're just going to have to get this piece back down there, connect all the wiring, and then we're going to take that upper radiator support that's down there and put it over the top. Alrighty, so this has been sucking down for a little while. We've got the front end back together. I've replaced some of the missing clips here with some Toyota ones that I had laying around. So let's get this pump shut off and this can set on here. Alright, so we have the can set up. We're going to start the car, put the AC on full blast, and then slowly open that low side valve there. Alrighty, now that it's running and the AC's on, we're just going to open this valve. And this should start slowly building pressure, as you can see. We're going to add in just short of 4 full cans of these 8-ounce bottles of 134. Alrighty, so I just heard the compressor kick on. It's hard to see, but if you look down there, you can see that compressor is spinning. The clutch is engaged. So this is going to start pulling that Freon in. Alrighty, so it did start to rain, but we are finished with the service. Pressures are good, so we're going to wrap this up here, get us out of the rain for tonight, move on to the next car tomorrow. All right, day 3, we're working on the Frontier again, trying to figure out the source of the parasitic draw. And, interesting, suddenly the draw is not there. That's about what I would like it to be, not 0.9. And I was testing this truck for about 2 days in a row, and it was like this until that day that I was filming, and it was 0.9. So seems we have an intermittent parasitic draw, which is very interesting. So we will see what we can come up with here and see if we can find the source of that concern. Alrighty, so unless Nissans have a very interesting ignition switch, I think I found something. So I was able to cycle the key a couple times and start it a couple times, and suddenly now I had a 0.9 draw on here. I went through every single fuse here and every single fuse inside and was not able to get that draw to go away. I cycle the key again, start it, suddenly I'm back down to 0.5. So then I noticed if I come here, you can see we have ignition on, right? Key is all the way on. Ignition's off. Okay, so you think, okay, ignition's off, right? If I turn this key just slightly, I have an accessory position before it's at accessory, and no radio, no AC controls, and I can hear the fuel pump running. One further forward, there's nothing again. Another forward. Now I can have the radio and the climate controls on, but no accessory. There's accessory. These still on. And then, of course, starting. So I think we have a bad ignition switch that is intermittently making a parasitic draw because it's making some sort of connection or running something or doing something. So I think I'm going to recommend a ignition switch for this truck and see what that does for it. All right, we are back for day 4. I'm awaiting response from the owner of the Frontier to see if they are okay with us doing an ignition switch. But in the meantime, I have one of my great customers, 2018 Avalon. They're getting spark plugs and a brake fluid change. So let's start on that. First thing we're gonna do, pull this engine cover off. It just pops on. You gotta take these Allen head bolts out of the intake manifold and the two 10mm nuts, the intake tube and air box off, throttle body off of the intake, and then this will lift off. Alrighty, after a quick run out of town to go look at another customer car with a concern, I'm back on the Avalon. I've just got the intake manifold off of it. Now we have access to the rear 3 spark plugs. We're gonna go ahead and, before we start doing anything, put some towels over the intake runners so that we don't drop anything down the cylinders. Alrighty, so the next thing we're gonna do, get this harness taken off right here. Get this connector off of this cam sensor. We're gonna take the 3 connectors off of the coil packs, take this 10mm nut out of here so that we have enough flex with the harness to be able to lift this coil pack past it, get those spark plugs out of there. Alrighty, so as you can see, we've got the harness completely off. If you just take all of the sensors off, on these you can actually just take the entire harness and move it out of the way, so it makes it really easy to get to that last spark plug. So alrighty, so you can see we have all 6 plugs out. Here's the new Toyota ones we're gonna put in. The nice thing about these Toyota plugs is that they are already pre-gapped from the factory. Alrighty, so I've got the coil packs back installed. All the connectors on, spark plugs are installed. Let's get this towel off of here, clean the mating surfaces for the intake manifold, install new OEM gaskets in the manifold, and get this installed on the car. Alrighty, so now we just need to get those Allen key bolts in there as well as the 10mm nuts. There's one 12mm bolt that goes in that bracket right there, and there is another 12mm bolt that goes right there. Alrighty, so all the intake manifold bolts are on. You can see those are all in there. I've had a lot of experience with technicians and other mechanics who take these off and do not put those bolts back on. It's really not that hard, just do it. So now we're gonna get this throttle body gasket off of here and replace it with a new OEM Toyota one. Alrighty, new throttle body gasket is installed. We're gonna clean some of the little bits of debris out of here. And then you can see the throttle plate is a little bit dirty, not too bad. We're gonna get that cleaned off too while this is off. Throttle body is clean and bolted back up. Always make sure that when you put this lower left hand 10mm bolt in, this bracket is attached to it. Now we'll get the airbox on. Engine sounds healthy. No warning lights on the dash. Alrighty, now we're moving on to the last service. We're going to be doing a brake fluid change. So we'll make sure that we top off this reservoir all the way. And we're going to start in the right rear. Alrighty, so you can see I have this brake bleeder tool. has a check valve in the middle of it so that it keeps air from coming back up, so you can bleed brakes with one person. So I'm just going to go in there and pump the brakes a couple times. Alrighty, so we got the bottle about halfway full. We're going to close this bleeder valve and then we'll go to the other side. Alrighty, so you can see we've almost completely filled the bottle and you can see how dark the fluid is. Now we're going to move to the passenger front. Alrighty, so we've about filled a little less than half of the bottle on the right front. You can see how clear that fluid's starting to look. I'm going to move over to the left front where you're done. Alrighty, so that is about as far as I can go. You can see how clear the fluid looks. The reservoir, you can't even see the fluid in it because of how clear it is. But you can barely see, there's the level. It's right even with the max, so we are all set. Alright, now the wheels are back on it. Let's get it off the jack stands. Alright, now let's get the wheels torqued. One of the most important things when servicing a car, make sure you put the wheel lock back in the glove box. Alrighty, it is now time to close the hood and we're going to go take a test drive. Make sure the engine's running perfectly fine. Make sure the brakes are doing their job. And then we will be wrapped up. I'd just like to point out real quick, that clock is not inaccurate. It is 2:11 in the morning. Alright, good morning. Somewhere along the way I lost track of the days. This is actually day 6 of doing side jobs. Today we have this 2017 Sienna getting spark plugs, coolant, and world standard transmission fluid service. So let's get started on it. Alrighty, and to do spark plugs on this, it is pretty much the same as the Avalon is. The biggest difference being that this is a direct injected engine, but it is the same 3.5 liter V6 2GR that is in the Avalon. We are going to get started. So I actually forgot that on these later direct injected 3.5s, there's only one bracket to the intake manifold on this side. There's not one on the back like the one we saw yesterday. So these can just lift straight out and you do not have to pull the cowl off. You just kind of have to snake it out between there carefully. Now we have access to the rear bank. We're going to get those coils out and get the plugs out. Alrighty, so you can see we have the plugs out. They are sitting right here. You can see these are a different style plug from the others. They have 3 electrodes on them. These also have a 60,000 mile interval over the other Avalon, or the Avalon over there that has a 120,000 mile interval. These direct injected 2GRs cut the interval in half, but they are a little bit easier to get to the spark plug. Alrighty, so now that we got the intake manifold surface cleaned off and the spark plugs all installed, we're going to get our new OEM gasket put on the intake and get the intake installed. Alrighty, intake manifold is on, even including the bolt for the bracket there. So now we're going to get the throttle body cleaned up. It does not look too bad, not even a little bit, but we're going to get that cleaned up before we install it. Alrighty, so the spark plugs are done. Now we get to move on to coolant and transmission fluid. Alrighty, so it's several hours later. I had to run into town and do a little bit of grocery shopping, as well as the customer wanted me to do a PCV valve on it. So we're going to take this off here. I have a new Toyota one for it. Let's get that installed. Alrighty, so we have our new Toyota PCV valve here. You can see there's the old one. There's a part number for it. We're going to get this installed real quick. Alrighty, so here's our new OEM Toyota coolant and transmission fluid for it. We're going to start getting these drained out of the car here. Alright, so up under the car, you can see there's the drain plug for the radiator. So we're going to crack that loose with our pan underneath it. You can see it goes right through the splash shield and onto our pan. Alrighty, so now that the coolant's draining, we're going to go underneath where the transmission is, and you can see we have that 10mm Allen plug there. We're going to pull that out of the car. Alrighty, so now you can see we have the transmission fluid coming out, but you'll notice it's not really flowing out super fast, and that is because there is a level setting straw or tube inside of there, so we have to remove that. Alrighty, so with a smaller Allen key, you can see this is that straw. So we take that out and now a bunch of fluid comes out of it. So we'll just let that drain for a few minutes. Alrighty, so the coolant is still draining, but you can see we've drained maybe about 3 quarts out of this transmission. Put the plug back in it here. Keep that old gasket on there for right now, just temporarily. We gotta pull this shield off the side of the body. Alrighty, and with that shield removed, we need to remove this very inconveniently placed 24mm plug that says WS on it. The key to these is going to be having a 3/8 socket with a 3/8 to 1/2 inch adapter to a 24 millimeter. That allows you just barely to be able to get it on there, and then you can take it off. Alrighty, so we're gonna take my little fluid pump, stick the filler into the transmission. Then we're gonna take this end and put it into the genuine ATF WS Toyota fluid, and we're gonna put 3 quarts of ATF in it. Alrighty, so we just put our 3 quarts in. Now we're gonna wait for the coolant to finish draining. Alrighty, so the next thing we're gonna do is if you crawl under the car to the back of the block, you can see that there's this coolant drain right here. This will drain the block of all of its coolant. So you can see a bunch of coolant comes out of there. So we're gonna let that drain in the pan too for a little bit. Alrighty, so now that I made a giant mess of my entire driveway, we're gonna add some coolant into this. I've closed the valve at the back of the engine. So on these newer 2GRs that are direct injected, they got rid of the bleeder, but on the older ones, there would be a bleeder right about there next to the intake manifold that you would have to open up. But like I said, these newer ones don't have it, so we're just gonna start adding the coolant to it. Alrighty, so we have our coolant reservoir, or I'm sorry, our coolant funnel filled all the way up. Definitely invest in one of these. They're a great tool. They help tremendously to bleed all of the air out of the system. So now we're gonna go start the car and put the heat on. Now we're gonna come over here, put the heat all the way on high. We're gonna turn the rear heat on as well. And also, because I put 3 quarts of fluid back in it, what we're gonna do is just kind of put the transmission through the gears and let some of that fluid flow through it, because then we're gonna drain another 3 quarts out of it. That's just to help do as much fluid as possible, do a 6-quart exchange. We don't want to do too much of it because it's not good to flush a system if you don't know the history on the fluid intervals, but that should be good. We got the fluid running through it, so we're gonna go ahead and shut it off now and then start draining the transmission again. And because we didn't put the straw back in it, the fluid comes out at full pace. This fluid looks pretty good because this car only has 80,000 miles and the owner is very meticulous about his maintenance. Alrighty, so as soon as that is done draining, we will go ahead and put the straw back in. It just threads into the transmission through the drain plug hole, and it will stop. You can't put it in too far. Alrighty, so we got the tube in there. Put the plug in the transmission here. Now we're gonna go ahead and move on to pumping 3 more quarts. Alrighty, so now we're gonna get the fill plug threaded back into the transmission with a new gasket. I'm going to only hand thread it for now, just in case we have to top it off just a little bit when we set the fluid level by temperature with the scan tool, which I will show you in just a moment. Alrighty, so with your scan tool, you're gonna wanna find your AT oil temperature data. Now you can see we're at 93 degrees for the fluid temperature. We're gonna start it, and as soon as it hits 95, between 95 and 113 degrees, we will pull the drain plug, and the fluid level will set based on that straw that is inside of that transmission drain plug. All right, so now you can see we're at 96 degrees, so we're good to pull the drain plug. And now we just wait until the fluid starts to turn to a dribble. Alrighty, so now it's starting to dribble out of there. The level is set. And make sure you torque down that fill plug. Alright, and finally we're just gonna sit here and let the coolant bleed. We're almost at the temperature, but we still don't have heat out of the vents. So just wait a little while for that to get all bled out. You can see all of the air escaping the cooling system. This is why I love this kind of funnel, and you should definitely invest in one. Alrighty, so we got the funnel off the reservoir, or off the radiator. We have coolant in the reservoir. We're gonna go take this for a drive, make sure that all of the air bleeds out of it, and then we're gonna re-inspect the car. Alrighty, so except for the Nissan Frontier, because that's still an ongoing diagnosis and repair, every car is left, everyone's picked up, all the cars test drove fine, and all is well. So that completes first week documented on video of SkyDrive's side jobs. There was an oil change that I actually did in there between the Silver Avalon I did the brake flush on and the spark plugs. There was another Avalon that actually came in just for an oil change. That's from a repeat customer of mine. So between the Avalon with the spark plugs and the brake flush and the Sienna that I did the spark plugs and the coolant and transmission on, I had that oil change come in. Anyway, guys, so that concludes the first of this new series of videos. This is my wife, Skylar, who is the namesake of the business. So I hope you guys like the new series of all the customer cars that I do, and look forward to seeing new videos from me.
Bye.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.